Hello everybody and welcome back to Gardens and Crystals with me, Wesley Peterson. And today I have a pruning and propagating video for you, as well as a repotting video of my beautiful Syngonium podophyllum Trileaf Wonder. This absolutely beautiful plant in front of me here. Now, I've been meaning to get on and do something about this plant for a while because it's grown a little bit amok for me. This plant I first introduced to you in my Raiding the Rack video number 40. So you can go back and check that out. I'll put the link in this video and in the comments and at the end of the video so that you can go back and see what this plant looked like when I first bought it. This plant was probably around, I'm not sure, 60 to 80 centimeters tall or something like that. So it was down to this level and very bushy, lovely, full of leaves. But since then, it's just grown up all the way up to here and lost a lot of leaves down the bottom because it is vining up, and the leaves at the top here are bushing out and getting bigger and thicker around the top. So if I should stand up, you can see how tall my beautiful plant has got, but I'm really not enjoying the look of this plant as it is. Now, it was my idea that this would be a lovely bushy plant and it will grow all the way up this tall stake that I have it tied to at the moment. But I want to go in and redo this whole plant because I need to make myself a thicker, bushier plant again. So what I've decided to do is go in and prune back all these top parts here and water propagate those. And then I will go in and I will prune back the rest of this stem at each node pair and put each part of those stems in water to propagate as well. Then I'm going to take the bottom part of the stems that I have left and repot this part with the roots into a smaller terracotta pot, because when I first bought this plant, I ended up repotting it into this much larger plastic pot inside a cover pot here. And on the top, I have a layer of lacquer balls and some of my crystal rocks that I found when I've been out and about. This plant doesn't need all this space at the bottom, I don't think. And I've started to see some yellowing on some of the leaves and crisping up on the edges and so forth. So I want to get in and reassess and reorganize this plant to get back to having a lovely bushier specimen that I will allow to vine up again. I really do want it to vine up, but not all bare all the way up like this. But I'm not sure. This could be the way that this plant grows as it goes up. So what I want to do first is take you in for a closer look so you can have a look at these lovely leaves so that you understand why it's called Trileaf Wonder. Usually each petiole has 3 leaves at the end that make up the whole leaf, and some of them have actually 4 and maybe a little bit more. So they're getting more and more as it grows up and bigger. So that is very enjoyable to see. I also want to take you in closer to show you some of the browning patches and so forth and give you an idea of why that could be happening with this plant. So let's go in for a closer look. So now you can see all these beautiful leaves at the top of this plant closer up and the wonderful shape on them. This one here, 4 lobes on it. And they've been getting bigger and bigger the higher up they get. So I hope that when I replant this plant that it will carry on growing bigger leaves from this point when I put this back down in the bottom of the pot and it starts growing up the stake again, because the leaves are absolutely wonderful. And you can see how lovely and shiny they are. They are quite thin. You can see there are a few leaves here down at the bottom still. And these leaves you're seeing here, they're on a vine that's much lower down. You can see some patches here you can see that look like drying and burning.
these have had pest infestations and maybe have dried out a little bit on the edge. So that's to show you that that can happen. And this leaf here, you can see I just cut away that a little bit. But yes, the whole stem here is bare at the bottom. And I'm really not enjoying the look of this at the moment with no leaves on it, and that's why I'm going to restart this plant so that I get leaves from the bottom all the way up again. And if I should have to redo the process again in the future, well, that's okay. I'll by then know that it's okay to do this.
So, I hope you enjoyed seeing this plant closer up before I get on and start hacking it apart. This is enjoyable when I think that I'm going to have some lovely propagations, lots more lovely examples of this plant, and I'm going to make myself something magical at the end of this in a couple of weeks. That's the plan. So I'll go in now at the top and take this first lovely bushy part off and put it straight into my big propagation vase I have next to me here, which I'm actually going to bring forth. Ooh, put it in the middle, so I am ready to get this in there. So I've got my scissors. This is being held up by a bit of twine up here. Get the twine off. That's going to make it flop straight away because it's very weak without support. It's not actually grown into the stake here. And I'm wondering how much stem I want to keep on this. Do I want to keep a couple of nodes? There's a lot of leaves, and I really do want to keep these leaves because I want to be able to replant this as a lovely bushy part in this pot you see over here later on. So I'm going to give it a couple of nodes, and then I'll bring that in and show you what I mean in a moment. So there we go, the first piece is off, and I'm going to bring this and show you what it looks like. And I just want to give a word of warning straight away now when you're working with this plant. This is a poisonous plant, so don't go getting all the sap all over your fingers or in your face and so forth. Just be careful with what you do and wash your hands if you get stuff on your hands. I mean, I usually get the sap on my hands and things like that, but I go and wash my hands and I've never had any bad or negative effects. But if you're going to have a plant like this, you do not want to have it around pets that might nibble on your plant or small children that could be interested in looking at your plants and go touch them and break them and then maybe get some of the sap on their fingers. So that's just a little word of warning about this otherwise very beautiful plant. So let me bring this in for a quick closer look. So look at all these leaves. Aren't they gorgeous and green? Look at this jungle of joy, this Trileaf Wonder. I love this huge leaf here. It actually has 1, 2, 3, 4 leaves on it. A little one coming out of that side there. And there's a new leaf coming out just here in the middle. So this was really beautiful, lovely top growth. Every leaf here looks very happy, very green. So I'm very happy about that part. And as I showed you in the close-up of the plant, there are leaves lower down that have yellow in patches and so forth. But this part is gorgeous. I've decided to leave, there is 1, 2, 3 segments with nodes, and I've left a longer piece under here that doesn't seem to have nodes. Maybe there's one there. So there could be 4 sections with nodes on this stem here where new roots can come out. This is a big bundle of leaves, so I've decided to leave a lot of segments to support the plant and get lots of new roots coming out as quickly as possible. So that is ready to go straight in to its propagation vase. And in we go. Oh, and when I put it in, I could see all that white sap spilling into the vase. Actually, I'm going to bring that and show you. Now, I don't know if you're going to be able to see this, but you can see all of that white sap of this plant spreading out into the water. It is poisonous. Look at that. But otherwise, doesn't this plant look gorgeous like this? I like that already. So that's my first vase with the cutting in it. I'm going to leave this cutting on its own in this water and see how it does. So I'll go on now and get number 2 done. And this has a couple of leaves, so I'm going to again give it a longer piece of stem like here. Take this off. Take some of the old dead pieces of leaf off around the edge. So there I have another lovely piece ready to go in my second tall vase here, because this is my second biggest piece. So now it's in this lovely clear vase and I'll be able to see everything that is going on with the roots on this plant too now. And then I have another smaller one. Just take that off with some leaves. There we go. Has a piece here that we don't need, cut that off. So there are a few nodes on this, a couple of leaves, and even though these leaves have a little bit more yellowing on and crisping on the side on the new leaf here, there is a new leaf coming out there on the side. I'm going to leave them on to support the plant while it's growing out its first set of roots. So that's going to go in this higher vase here. So now I have my 3 main pieces of this plant already starting their propagation process, and I'm expecting this to probably take between 2 and 4 weeks for these plants to get some lovely roots for me to be able to reintroduce them into the same pot as the main root balls here, because the rest of the stem I'm going to be cutting back in a moment here. Lovely. So, let me get on with cutting more of the main stems and getting them into their little vases here with water so that I can get in and start taking up the main root ball and repotting it. But just before I go into fast forward, I just want to show you a piece of the stem. There's the stem and it has nodes here, here, here. There's a leaf coming out there, I think, or something, and here. So what I'll do is I will just split this up. I will cut just between the internodes of where all the nodes are coming out. So you can see I left around about an inch at the top here above these nodes. I will cut between that here and the same all the way down the stem. And I will just put this in water and see if these are going to flush out and become individual plants with new roots and new leaves themselves. Because then I really will be able to get myself a big bushy plant. At the end here you can see the white sap. That is what you need to take care of. It's very sticky and can clog your pores and everything else. So don't get that on you. And if you do, just wash your hands. So basically it's the same for the rest of the stems. So I'm going to move to fast forward and get these all pruned back and in water.
So chippity chop chop chop, and I'll soon be done with all of this. And wow, that feeling of having loads of plants again just from cutting up a mother plant, it's just fantastic.
So there we go. All the stems are pruned back. None of these have leaves and none of them have any viable fresh roots on them at the moment. They have leaf buds, some of them, and they have dried aerial roots. So I'm hoping that in a couple of weeks, they will flush out into new baby plants. And I am going to go in, I think, and put a couple of drops of organic liquid fertilizer in the water, because I've tried that on other plants and it seemed to work very well. So I'm going to try that again. It's a very small amount, 2 little drops in each jar, to see if that will just boost these plants into growing new roots and leaves as quickly as possible. And we'll see how it goes. So well, now all my propagations are started, all my stems have been cut down. So all I need to do now is sort out the main roots of the mother plants. I just need to take up my lovely rocks here that I have on the top. And I want to show you them closer up because I really love them. I found those while I've been out walking in the Swedish nature, and I love crystals. So when I find mountain crystal or quartzite, I'm very happy. So I'll show you this. So this rock here is a granite rock with lots of quartzite in it. Look at that. Huge amount. Absolutely beautiful. A lovely display piece for my plant. You can see the bottom of the matrix. and then the beautiful crystals. Now this beautiful rock that I found, I'm really not sure if it's granite or if it's something else, but it is full of some kind of crystal that shines, and in the right light it shines up purple, kind of like amethyst, even though it's not amethyst. But have a look at this rock. Isn't that gorgeous? Look at the patterning on it and all of the crystals, and I don't know if I'll be able to get them to shine or shimmer for you here, but it is full of them all over. And I just found this lying out in nature and I just had to bring it home. It was gorgeous. I absolutely love it. It's amazing, amazing that this was just lying out there waiting for me to bring it home and place it among my plants to look beautiful as a lovely statement piece. So right, I have a bit of difficulty this time because this stake here is actually a solid metal stake inside this cocoa coir or coconut fibre, whatever you want to call it, that are 1, 2, 3, 4 smaller stakes that I bought, and I just open the top and squeeze them down onto this metal pole to make me a longer pole. So that's how I got myself a longer pole like this. I often get questions about where do you buy those long stakes like that? I never see them anywhere. Well, neither do I. I have to make them myself. You can't go out and buy them 2-3 meters long like this as far as I've seen. And if you do know somewhere, put it down in the comments below so that everyone knows where they can get things like that, because I've never seen it. So I buy them smaller and I put them together, as I said, either on a metal pole like this, or I just get them and open them, and if it's got a wooden piece at the bottom, I can show you here. So this is a cocoa coir stake I have here. This one must be 1 meter long or so. And at the bottom, you can see it is a thinner piece of wood inside that thins off. So you can get that, open up the top, and you should be able to squeeze that into the top of your other stake to make it taller. It's that simple. So that's what I've done with many of my stakes. I bought this stake out because I was thinking I was going to put it straight in that pot, and when I repot, I will be ready for this plant to grow up. But in the beginning, I've decided I'm going to leave it without any stake, because then I won't have this kind of feeling of it's so small and it's not growing out and so forth, and it looks strange with just a stake with nothing on it for months on end. So I'm going to leave it with nothing, but I have plenty of stakes. So when the time comes, I can just put one in the middle and let this plant vine up itself again. So that was just so you know how to create longer stakes. And I haven't been making stakes myself. You can go out and buy cocoa coir and some plastic twine and put it around a wooden frame or a plastic frame, but it's much more advisable to put it around a plastic frame so that it doesn't rot out so quickly. The bottom part, yes, you can put wood in like this, so you get the shape to get it into the soil, and wrap it around and so forth if you wish. But I bought this, and I find them like this here in Sweden where I live, in places like Bauhaus and Plantagen and all sorts of other larger places, Blomsterland. There are so many different places. They do have these, and you can find them online, ready-made, ready to go. So that is the information about these for all of you that are interested in coconut fibre stakes or any other stakes. Either make them yourself, or you can buy them and place them on top of each other. So the first thing I want to do is try and get this stake out, and I hope it's going to come out easy enough for me. It's going to have to move forward a bit to get it out of the pot and have enough room up by the ceiling. And I'm going to get mess everywhere, of course, because that always happens. See. Alright, the metal bit doesn't seem to want to come out. What's going on there? Alright. Okay, I can't remember what I did before, but I have trouble. I think when I made this pot, I have put the metal frame into the bottom, through the bottom of the plastic pot here, and it's fastened itself because it had a kind of arrow-shaped bottom with a ledge, and that's got stuck, so I can't get this out. So basically, I'm just going to go in and get my plants with their roots up and put them into their new pot and sort this one out later off camera. So to do this, I'm going to have to switch around a bit. See what I have here. Pot down on the floor. My lovely huge propagation here on the side, looking gorgeous. And then I'll put these stones by the side of that to look gorgeous. And then I have my pot that I'm going to be repotting into in the middle. So, right, the soil that I've used for this plant is a good gardening mix. So go out there and get any kind of good gardening mix, an organic gardening mix, and you need to add lots of things to it to make it a good soil for your plant. You can't just put it straight in the gardening mix. That would be too heavy, too waterlogged, and yeah, won't have all the things the plant needs. So what I add to this is perlite. I've added a couple of cups of perlite so that the soil doesn't become too saturated all the time. I've actually added half a cup of sand, fine sand, to help keep the soil loose so it doesn't compact too much. I've put biochar in here to help with the plant being able to take up nutrients and help to keep it healthy and soil healthy. I have leckables in here as well to create pockets of larger areas with space for air to flow around in the soil. So there's all sorts of stuff in here. I also have large pieces of bark to give some natural nutrients to the soil slowly as that breaks down as well. So there's a whole mix of things that I use in my soil, and you can use different things that you have around where you live. The idea is that you just need to make sure the soil is as loose and airy as possible, because this plant likes to be watered through thoroughly and then allowed to dry out at least halfway through the soil, 50%, before watering again. You never want to overwater your Syngoniums. They don't like that. Their roots will rot, especially if they're in plastic pots or any kind of pot that's not breathable. That's why I've decided to use a terracotta pot. It's breathable from the sides, bottom and top. And I can go in and water this plant and it will dry out quicker, and I can just water it more often however I feel. The plant will tell you itself, it droops a little when it needs water, then you know you're safe to go in and water it. If you're overwatering, the leaves are going to start yellowing out. But conversely, if you underwater, the leaves will also yellow out, dry up and crisp off. And a sign of overwatering is also it could start yellowing out on the edges of the leaves or browning out, because the plant is suffocating in the soil and its roots are rotting and it's not able to take up the nutrients that it needs. So it is a balancing act. And I, myself, have had a lot of trouble with Syngoniums. I have not been successful with Syngoniums. So please make sure you go and see a lot of different videos about Syngoniums with people that have a lot of experience with them. I haven't had so much success, but that's because I've brought these plants home. I've left them in their plastic cover pots. They've been in areas where it hasn't been bright light, and then they've just been sitting in moist soil for too long and they've rotted out. So if they're in a lower light condition, these plants really do not need that much water. So remember that. But if you have it in a bright, indirect position, which is the absolute best for this plant, then you'll be able to water it a lot more. But you always need to check that it's around about 50% dry before you go in and water the plant again. Never let it sit in water. It can rot out very easily, but other than that, it is a quick and easy growing plant if that part of the care is watched very carefully. So let's get these up now and put them in this pot, and I've already put soil to halfway up because I really don't know how large the root balls are on these stems now and how much space I'm going to need in the new pot. So I'm just going to try and get them up and into this pot in fast forward so it goes a little bit quicker.
They're coming up so surprisingly easily.
So I've just got the first one up here. I'm just going to bring it a little bit closer so you can have a look at the roots and see what's going on. So there's the stem and there are the roots. The soil is slightly moist and there's a lot of roots going on, so that's good. And some of them are thicker than others. So it seems like the root ball is doing okay to be repotted and carry on growing. And you can see I've left about 5-6 inches of stem here for new leaves to be able to grow out and for the stem to carry on growing up later. So I really hope this is going to branch out new vines for me and look beautiful in a couple of weeks. So into the new pot with the first one, and I'll just carry on with the other two.
This is just so much fun. I can't wait to see what they're going to look like later.
So now I've got all 3 of my stems. They've all got nice roots, and looking at the roots, it just shows me that they were in a pot that was way too big for them. They didn't need all that. They haven't got much of a root ball. This one here is the biggest, and it's still not that big. So there's plenty of space for them in this new pot, and there's going to be plenty of space for the other cuttings to be able to be placed around to make me a big, bushy mass. That is my plan. So these are in. I want to make sure there's going to be a space for a new stake in the middle with time. So I'm going to put them up like this and just fill up with soil. Cue fast forward while I enjoy getting my hands all dirty because I love this part.
There's nothing better than feeling all of this coming together now. My lovely plants and the soil and everything.
So my 3 stems are now repotted. I just want to move this big stake out of my frame a minute and tidy up, because then I can show you this closer up and what's happened. So here is my terracotta pot with my mother plant root balls of my Syngonium podophyllum Trileaf Wonder. And I've left the level of the soil down to below the bottom lip edge, which is about 1.5 inches, because when I start planting in the baby plants later on, I'll be able to fill up with a little bit more soil then. But for now, I'm going to leave this like this. These 3 stems are fine. I really do expect that they are going to flush out new vines and stems quite quickly. I'm really hoping that's going to happen. You can see there's a leaf at the bottom here. I've left that because it was attached to the plant still and still looks green and viable, so I'm leaving that to help that stem. Why not? It's going to be interesting to see what happens with these with time. So I'm going to go in and water this through to make sure the soil is moist, and then leave them to do their thing. So for me, this is all an experiment, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what happens. I really do hope I'm going to get a lovely new plant here. I hope these propagations are going to do really well and flush out roots very quickly so that I can reintroduce them all into the same pot. Just think, when this one over here, this big bushy one with all its lovely leaves, has roots and I can just put it straight into this pot, it's going to look full and lush already, as well as the other 2. So they'll be around the edge, and then these in the middle will start growing out their new vines and leaves, and it's just going to look gorgeous. I really, really hope that. And I've left space to be able to put a stake in the middle so that they can start vining up. And I really hope these smaller stems here are going to take off. Who knows? This could be a success. It could be a complete failure. They could all just go ahead and rot. So I'm just going to have to wait for a week or 2 and see what happens. So what I've decided I'm going to do is put all of the smaller stem cuttings without leaves and roots in my MarsHydro grow tent, because in there I have my TS 1000 LED white spectrum grow light, and that has really helped some of my other propagations come on very quickly. So I'm going to put those in there and see how that works out. The others I am just going to leave on the floor here in my indoor terrace garden next to a grow light and let them flush out their roots in here. And I hope they're all going to be wonderful successes. I have one vase that I didn't end up using, but that's okay. So I'll just give this pot a quick watering through and run through some more care tips about this plant. It's so satisfying getting in and watering your plants, isn't it? And now that they're in terracotta, I know that they're not going to get too swamped out in water. I must say, I found this Syngonium podophyllum Trileaf Wonder the absolute easiest to keep, because I have literally failed with all other types. but that was because I wasn't doing it quite right when I started out with Syngoniums. And now I've grown my confidence because of this beautiful plant here. I actually have 2 different pots of this plant, and I'm going to show you my other one in a moment. But I found with this plant, I let it dry out quite a lot before going in and watering it again. And I've had this plant in a plastic pot inside of a cover pot in a huge pot of soil with lecker balls on top. And I've still been watering it, and I still haven't managed to rot it out. Now that is amazing, actually. Thinking about the care of this plant, that it needs to be able to dry out almost completely between waterings and then be watered through and then allowed to dry out. This plant has survived. It grew up, it stayed, it's grown big, beautiful leaves, so it's been okay, but I think it's going to do much better in this situation now. My other plant I'm going to show you is hanging. It's in a plastic pot, which has lots of holes in the bottom, so if I water it, it won't get overwatered, the water can come out the bottom, and that is hanging there and looking beautiful. So this was vining up, that one is trailing down, and I'm going to show you the difference. This plant loves bright, indirect light to grow fast and beautiful, but it can tolerate medium-low light situations, but you just need to make sure you water it much less. Fertilize every couple of weeks or so in the growing season when it's really growing well, but if it's in a shady situation where it's kind of stagnant and not growing very much, please do not fertilize the plant, because you are just going to stress it out, and it will probably die, or it will just become a long, thin vine with no leaves on it. This plant, when it gets weak, is susceptible to a lot of different kinds of bugs. And I'm telling you, I've had bugs on this plant, mealybugs, thrips, spider mites, all sorts. And I've been trying to spray them over with dishwasher soap mixed with water and a little bit of oil that I have. Neem oil is absolutely the best to help keep your plants free from pests. Spray them over. If you have a plant you can take to the bathroom, to your bath or your shower, go in and rinse off the leaves whenever you can to keep this plant happy. These leaves are very thin, so they can easily be penetrated by these insects that suck the life out of them, basically, and they'll start yellowing up in patches and crisping up, and the plant will eventually die because its leaves are dying off and it won't be able to produce food through the chlorophyll that it needs in the leaves. You've just seen how I propagate. You can propagate in water. You can take the stems with nodes with a couple of leaves on and put them straight into soil that you keep moist and propagate that way as well. You could easily do air layering on this plant as well. Put a plastic bag or a plastic pot around the stem, and then the nodes will start producing roots for you. So it's an easy plant to propagate. There are so many segments, so there's so many chances to get yourself some success out of this. They are viney plants. When they're happy, they vine up tall and thin. So it is a plant that you are going to have to go in and prune and maintain much more than other kind of vines, because these will get leggy very quickly, as you saw with this one. You need to reboot it again like this, or you just need to go in and keep it pruned back so that it stays compact and bushy. Otherwise you will just have long leggy vines. Soil I spoke about earlier. Pot drainage is very important, and this plant also does like humidity because the leaves, as I said, are thin. So it likes to be in a humid environment, or you can go in and mist around your plant. It's good if you have a humidifier. I have a humidifier here, it's not on at the moment. And if you can keep the room at around about 60%, then your plant will be happy. Temperature, no lower than 18 degrees Celsius to keep the plant happy, otherwise it's just going to rot and die back. Up to 23, 25 degrees or so, in that range, the plant is happy. The main issue with this plant for most people will be rotting out the roots through overwatering. The watering is a little bit of a challenge. You really do just need to make sure that you don't overdo it and you don't underdo it. But let me show you now my other hanging Syngonium, because it's absolutely gorgeous. So here it is. This one is growing amazingly for me. Look how long this vine is. And actually, I'm going to go in while I'm in the midst of propagating and prune back this long vine, because it's getting too long and it's just going to trail all the way down to my floor and get longer and longer and longer. And there's no point in that. I want to prune this back, get some roots, and reintroduce it into this pot where it's a little bit barer up the top here in between the vines that I have. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4. It looks like I have 4 vines in this pot. Look up here, it's very bushy and gorgeous. So this plant is really, really happy and doing well in its plastic pot, hanging. I repotted this into a larger hanging pot with new soil, and I water it, let it dry, and water it again, and it seems to be doing the trick. Just look at all this lovely new growth here. It's very green, very happy, very beautiful. All the leaves on this plant are absolutely amazing. So yeah, as I said, I need to go in and prune this back, and I'm going to do it right now. Where's my scissors? So, I am not an octopus, so I can't hold this plant and prune it back and show you at the same time, because otherwise I'm going to drop it to the floor and probably break some of those lovely new leaves. So what I want to show you is, this one is as long as this, so I'm going to prune this one back to the same level. So I'll prune it back to here, you can see there, and then I'm just going to get the rest of it and chop it up and put it into the propagation vases I have behind me. So let me put this plant back so I can show you how I cut it up. So here's the vine I just cut back. A really, really lovely piece. Lovely, lovely piece. And on this I can see I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I have the possibility from this one stem of producing 10 individual plants. 10. And these seem to be growing so well and so fast for me. I think I am literally going to do that. Make them all into individual plants so that I can get as many root balls into the pot as possible to be able to create a much thicker, beautiful, bushy plant. So I'm just going to place this behind me and show you the pot again where I prune back so that you can see how much more balanced it looks now. So there we go. Look at that. I just pruned this vine here back, and it's dripping some of the sap, so I need to be careful not to put my fingers underneath there. And it's the same height as the other one. That looks much better. It looks much more balanced all the way around. If we look all the way around here, that's much more balanced and nice. So this will just start growing out a new vine down here with no problem. And this one, when it grows out a little bit longer, I can go in and prune that and do the same, and carry on the process with every single part. So I think that looks absolutely wonderful. If you look closer, the one side and the other side where I pruned it is just there. And you really can't see where I pruned it. It looks very good. So don't worry about getting in and pruning this lovely plant when it's doing so well. The only thing that's going to happen is you're going to make yourself some lovely new plants. Right, so I'm just going to quickly get in and chop this up and put them in the last vase I have here. I have this vase here. I can put them in there and see how we go.
This piece of vine is just gorgeous. Think of the amount of beautiful plants I'll get.
I think that little vase is quite full up now. I'm actually going to put some of these with leaves in my other vase at the back here.
So just a few more snips and I'm completely done with all of this.
So there we go. That's me done with more propagations. Lots and lots and lots. I've lost count already. These ones have lovely leaves, so they should be able to get roots very quickly in my MarsHydro grow tent under the grow light, and a few drops of liquid fertilizer. So let me show you them all in place in my MarsHydro grow tent.
It's so funny. I see this MarsHydro grow tent as my little secret garden of tricks where I have all my cuttings and propagations and different plants that might need a little bit of a boost by being underneath this MarsHydro TS1000 LED white spectrum grow light. I've actually had to turn down the intensity to around 75% because it's very powerful, found out. But here you can see all of my wonderful Syngonium podophyllum Trileaf Wonder cuttings now, sitting on this glass table and starting their propagation process. And the mother root balls here in my new terracotta pot that are hopefully going to flush out new side shoots and come back, and then I'll be able to put all of these pieces together in that same pot and make me a lovely bushy plant again. And most of the cuttings that I've had in this grow tent have done really, really well and grown roots very quickly under this amazing grow light you can see here right now. The light reflects all the way around in this tent, and by keeping them in glass vases, I can keep an eye on the process of the roots and how the water is doing. And while I'm here, I can just show you all of my philodendron podatums down here that I did a cuttings video on. These are all propagating further now in soil, and they're doing quite well in their plastic bags to keep the humidity. And I have here my Scindapsus pictus exotica that I also did a propagation video on. And they are also doing very well and have flushed out a lot more leaves in this bag. So I'll be ready to take all of these out quite soon so that they have more space. And yeah, they're probably ready to come out into the air now and carry on as young plants anyway. So that's how they're doing next to my Syngoniums here. And there are many other plants I have hidden behind, but this video isn't about all those. So we'll just keep our eyes on the Syngoniums for now. But this was just to show you what you can do with a grow tent and your propagations and a grow light. Keep your cuttings nice and warm with good light, fresh water, and you should be able to make yourself lots and lots of new plants from one vine or a few vines that you've needed to cut back a little. And I really would suggest this MarsHydro grow light and grow tent. It is amazing. So let's get on with the rest of this video.
So, I really hope you enjoyed seeing all these cuttings close up, and well, I'm looking forward to a few weeks into the future when all of these have got lovely roots and I can reintroduce them into this pot and maybe other pots, because I might have a lot of this plant all of a sudden. So never be afraid to get in and tidy up your plants and make yourself lots of new plants, because it's just so wonderful. The whole process is so exciting to see, from the beginning to the end, and your new plant and the new result that you get. It's just so uplifting and fascinating, and to think that all of these are clones of the same plant. Just think, you might think, for example, if your mother plant has died and you've gone in and pruned back and you've got all the stems, that plant died. No, that plant never dies. Why? Because it's still living on. Parts of its body are still living on. So the same plant, the same clones of the same plant are going on. If you do this, you could keep your plant the rest of your life, basically, if you keep the parts happy. Doesn't matter just about the original part. And I know this one is going to be okay and come back. But as I said, it's the same plant in different pots. And that's really, really fascinating to me. So you're going to have to remember to tune in again when I make another video of these plants with their lovely roots and leaves, and when I go on and repot them into their new pot and other pots, so that you can see how this technique works. So anyway, all I have to say now is thank you very much once again for watching Gardens and Crystals with me, Wesley Peterson. Please remember to like, subscribe and hit the bell so you know when my next video will be coming up. And I will see you again very, very soon. Goodbye.